everybody. I'm speaking with Dominic Rapson, who is in Brighton. Is that where you're at, mate, in the UK?
Yeah, Brighton, UK, South Coast.
Yeah, getting the sunny spot, that's right.
Yeah. That's why all the Londoners are trying to get
here. Trying being the key word. Trying to get out of London. Mate, I always kick off the Stag podcast with asking people what they did on the weekend, because I reckon it gives people an insight into what people are usually passionate about is what they do on their weekend. But looking at your Instagram, you seem to be doing your passion every day of the week, but what did the weekend entail?
Yeah, it's quite blessed at the moment to have over the last 5 years transformed my passion into my profession. But yeah, it's usually some kind of movement, some kind of studying, and if I'm lucky, hunting as well.
Nice. So we just talked off here about how New Zealand's this pretty much free range mecca for hunting, and you can check back in a couple of my podcasts. But in the UK, it's a little bit different. You got to know someone. How did you get to know someone?
Oh man, actually, I was hoping for a better result when I bought my rifle. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get loads of land. It's gonna be easy. There's loads of, especially rabbits, because the population here is ridiculous. Like, it's growing by the millions every year. No one's eating rabbit anymore. So I thought it'd be really easy, but it's been so hard to get a lot of the nearby farms. So I don't actually get to hunt as often as I would like. So I mean, I have a few friends that own farms, and that's been the only real way I've been able to even practice shooting and marksmanship. So I go on their land. There's some beautiful land around, and nobody hunting on it at all. So it's been a bit challenging.
Nice. And so you brought up in the Bahamas, and how I got to know you is through your podcast with Keegan Smith, which I thought was superb, even though it came across in two doses. But you had a background in spearfishing, and as we were talking about on Instagram, I was just been in the Coromandel, which is a nice spot for going spearfishing. Do you get out into the cold waters of the north and spearfish?
Oh no, I haven't done any spearfishing around here. Although I was tempted. I sold all my stuff before. Oh, sorry, it's not Bahamas, Barbados.
Barbados, sorry, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Everyone confuses like Bermuda, Bahamas, but yeah, one of the B's in the Caribbean. And I sold all my stuff before moving back here, which I'm quite bummed, because Brighton actually has really good spearfishing. So yeah, I was missing out on all the lobsters and black sea bass and mullets here, but no comparison to deep water saltwater fish from the warm waters. I mean, cold water fish are okay, but nothing like a good mahi or tuna and kingfish or barracuda, which is what I was hunting out in the Caribbean.
Absolutely. I was in an aquarium in Auckland just on Monday, and a massive kingfish swam by, and it was just like, wow, I can only imagine trying to chase one of those. What is it about spearfishing? And we've had another spearfisher on the podcast who's a photographer by day, but spearfisherman by weekend, as I was saying before. What is it for you that really gets you going?
Oh man, I mean, I've always been a water baby. I mean, I grew up in Brazil, always in the water, always fascinated by sea life. My first choice of profession was going to be a marine biologist. Yeah. So I was studying the ocean from a very young age and spending a lot of time being a surfer as well. And when I moved to Barbados, just the people that fell into my life were all spearfishermen. All like became my best friends. So they took me out, and that first time I went, I was just hooked by the beauty and the experience of just being out in the water. And then I started training freediving really religiously. I wanted that long breath hold. I wanted to get deep. And then I just started investing in all the spearfishing equipment. And that was something I was doing at least 3-4 times a week for my own food. And it's just, it wasn't really about the hunting. It was just the means to be deep under the ocean with so much life around you and all the sounds and the colors. And it completely took my heart. I was just completely absorbed by this strange world beneath the surface. And then the technique of hunting then was also quite addictive, and it was just something that I found was just so skillful. And anything like that that's quite complex, I get addicted, and I just devote all my time into it.
Nice, mate. And Ben Greenfield, who, if you're looking to go deep on biohacking, you probably want to look up that man, Ben Greenfield. One of his, I think he said on a friend of mine's podcast, one of his key things in terms of biohacking that he gets out of his day-to-day is holotropic breath work. When it comes to spearfishing and free diving, and New Zealand, we're lucky enough to have one of the best free divers in the world. What is it about the breath, controlling the sympathetic nervous system, not panicking, that when you get back to the top, and especially if you've got a fish on the end of your spear, that just gives you such a buzz?
Yeah. I mean, I studied a lot of pranayama, and do you know Sir Iyengar?
Not clearly, no.
Well, just to say, I think his yoga principles and stuff are not ideal, but the breath work and the expansion of the lungs, I used a lot of that, and I got my breath hold to 6 minutes and 36 seconds. So I was quite proud of that. That's stationary, with face down in the water. And dry, I was managing about 7 minutes. And a lot of breath work. I also had a friend who was a freedive instructor. So he taught us the proper rhythms of breath when you're floating in the water before you go down, and the maximum amount of CO2 contractions you get before you need to come up to surface, before you shallow water blackout. Wow. So there was a lot to learn, and it was pretty epic, and you just felt so powerful with that knowledge. And to me, like, one of the most addictive parts of spearfishing is beating the animal that was designed to be there. So the technique I used was more of the Mediterranean technique, which is like the espeto technique. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
No.
Well, espeto is you really got to have a good breath hold at the depth that you're hunting at, and it's being able to. We were wearing camo suits, and we were all completely camouflaged, and we would just sit on the bed. We'd sit in a channel where we knew there was a certain current or a certain species that would be hunted by the bigger fish. And you would find a grooving channel to sit in where you'd be camouflaged. And the most you would move is you would gently crawl along the bottom of the ocean floor until you find different spots to hide. And you would throw some sand around, chip at some stones, and you pretend like you were meant to be there. So, yeah, like as a lot of hunters do, making sounds and brushing leaves, or laying stationary in like a hide. So it's just mimicking yourself to be there. And obviously with spearfishing, there's a little less than you can do. You can't really make calls or anything like that, so you have to use the environment a little bit more, and you want to get the fish's attention. So you want the fish to come to you rather than you having to swim at them. And I love that technique. A lot of my biggest fish was getting that technique, hiding around, laying on the bottom for 2 to 3 minutes, testing your breath hold at the same time, staying calm, absorbing this beautiful scenery. And then the fish comes to check you out. You wait for that broad shot, and then you come up with it. Happy days.
Happy days. And an absolute amazing feed. And as you talk about a kingfish or a mahi, you can serve that up. Been to Rapson a couple of times, and it's nothing like a bit of raw fish or sashimi.
Love it.
Love
Absolutely.
It.
Yeah.
Mate, sorry?
Especially mahi. Oh, that soft white meat is just incredible.
Yeah, but we'd like to go a little bit philosophical here, and as deep as you like. Who is Dominic today, mate?
Well, now as a sorry, I hope that's not getting in the audio too much.
That's all good.
Just
the telephone.
Well, basically, now I've been living in the city for a little while, so not as wild as I'd like to be or used to be. But now everything about me has been about holistic protocols and nutrition, and just diving down into the truths of our ancestral history and how we can use our ancestral history to understand how to be healthy today, and how important it is in this modern world full of new pollutants of all different kinds. It's like warfare on the human being. And I'm trying to get to the truths of why our ancestors have made us so well and how we're standing here today, and how we can continue to get back on the path before our brains stop growing and we're just slowly degenerating with all these modern diseases. So yeah, I became Origins of Vitality with the after studying holistic lifestyle coaching and nutrition, traveling to a few tribes and spending time out in ancestral places away from modern technology, learning how to be a natural human. And with that, it then became more about fighting these chronic and degenerative diseases that we have now. So that's really what my life is about now. It's fighting those diseases. And of course, I'm a mover, and to keep myself sane and to keep my brain going, because I'm not hunting, and most sports are to mimic hunting and to get that thrill and that energy and that need to kill out. So I train 2-3 times a day. And so now also a lot of my life is about teaching proper movement, strength in calisthenics, and using, as you know, I'm fully carnivorous, been on meat only for over a year now, and teaching people how to raise their performance with that really primal way of being.
Mm-hmm. And I saw you regrammed a picture today of somebody who was an ex-vegan and has had a child, and they were thanking the likes of yourself and Sean Baker, and just one really awesome Instagram page, and it's Slow Down Farms. And that, like I said, going back to that ancestral way of nourishing our bodies. And we were so lucky to get Lily Nichols on the podcast, and she'll say, you know, in slow cooking meats and things like broth, you know, you're just getting these things that your body desires. And that lady, she said that she followed her body, and beef was it. Like, what was it? Yeah. What's it like getting messages like that, especially from somebody that's had a past like that, and of course something that you can relate to in terms of a past vegan life?
Yeah, I mean, I was vegan for 2 years. Don't know how I managed that now, looking back on it. It ruined me. And but yeah, it was a good experience. And now on a daily, I get, well, it used to be quite a lot, but now I get quite a few messages. They're all like, how can you promote this, blah, 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 you're hurting people, and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, like, I'm showing them results from clients all getting better and getting the results they want. But they all come back a few months down the line or a year down the line, like, I had my first steak. It was incredible. I feel amazing. And I'm like, well, yeah, there you go. Let's proof in the pudding there. On the first bite, you feel a difference in health. So, I mean, that's what I say. I tell people, don't bother arguing with them, because it's a belief. It's a system of a cult that embeds itself into people's ideologies and removes all logic. So I don't argue. I just like to show by example and just stay quiet, provide them a little bit of information if they ask the how, rather than keep asking me why. And yeah, generally within a little bit of time, as they see you constantly progress and them constantly going downhill, they turn over.
Yeah, you spoke about the cult aspect of it and the belief aspect of it, and I was lucky enough to talk to Belinda Vicky this morning, and we were exactly that. It all comes from a belief mindset, and the Seventh-day Adventist way of bringing salvation to us, and that's what I guess. There's a lot of guilt and things around it. Something that, what's his name? Brian Rose, I think. No, that's not right. Brian Sanders, sorry, from Food Lies, brought up the other day that now he almost feels the same guilt about having some spinach on his plate as he used to do about having a steak on his plate. And I just, you know, I'm exactly the same. I'm a bacon and eggs breakfast person, and then I'm going, well, have some spinach today. I don't know.
You're like skeptical about it. You're like, that green shit, I don't know if I can trust that anymore.
Yeah, Georgia eats, you know, saying, it's probably stopping all the benefit that you're getting. You're like, Am I really undoing the goodness?
Well, are you mostly carnivore then?
No. We're I describe it as somewhere paleo to keto. You know,
Okay.
um,
Well, people use carnivore as a label for like, oh, you only eat meat and water. I mean, if meat's predominantly on your plate with a few decorative items on the side, if you want bacon, rice, you're a carnivore. You're eating ancestrally. I mean, people like carnivores also becoming like a cult as well. You know, look at me. I've managed this amount of time on just meat and water. I'm a pure blood. The rest of you are. It's like, you know. No, to me, if you know the value of meat and you're giving it to your family and you're eating it every day for every meal, no matter what else is in between or on the side, as long as you know whole foods, you're a carnivore. You're eating ancestrally or as close to it as possible. You know, we're just taking that step further because many of us are feeling, especially performance-wise, musculature-wise, internally, that actually the vegetables kind of hinder us as compared to when we're without them. We feel a lot stronger and better.
Yeah, and Sean Baker always goes back to like the 80s and stuff, that, you know, steak and eggs and nuts, not even the nuts, steak and eggs diet, and that's how you got massive before there was things to make you grow. So you said about going into these exclusive tribes and being in the South Pacific. It's something that's hugely tragic. Something Belinda was even saying was that this Seventh-day Adventist diet is getting into countries like Fiji and Samoa, and you look at the people that live there and hunt pigs and fish, and just how much of a specimen they are. And I'm in Australia right now, and the traditional Aboriginal folk, they're just these giant, strong, you know, resilient, endurable people. And then you look at what happens now when a Western diet is introduced. One of the greatest examples of how bad it is Tokelau, this tiny island nation. The sugar ship got, I don't know, delayed or broken, and people were reversing their diabetes because they were just eating what they used to eat. And then the sugar ship turned back up and back to the status quo of deteriorating health. What was it like to go into a place of isolation and seeing what truly is capable for our physiology?
Yeah, I mean, the most impactful one that I enjoyed was the Bedouin tribes, the nomadic Bedouin tribes of the African desert, mostly towards Egypt and Jordan and that area. And it's just incredible how their rhythms of living are just, they don't have to think about much, or they don't put much thought to it. It's just so natural. It's just standard. I mean, you're waking up with the sunrise. At night, the only lights are your fire and the stars. There's no light pollution at all. No need for blue blockers. No need for red lights. It's just all there all the time. Surrounded by the mountains and the desert. You know, it's nothing around. Just walking around herding your animals. That's all they do. They tend to their animals all day. They tend to the materials of their tents and bedding, and it's just so simple. The only stresses are just survival, and these people are tough as nails, so resilient, not one fat one amongst them. You know, it's no ills or anything, no modern ills. These people were just incredible, and even with like a language barrier, they were just so kind, so open. They didn't think of anything. They had no modern like propaganda to skew them of anything or other relations to human beings. They're just beautiful, gentle, open people. And being out there, I was learning to fast and dry fast because they do it in times with their seasons, and they use their camel and goats to produce amazing probiotic milks that are very close to human breast milk. So I learned how they use that and how it's a daily consumption for them. And we broke our 6-day dry fast with goat and camel milk, which was absolutely incredible. So I learned a lot. These people are in the intense heat. I mean, some days were almost 40 degrees. And they're out there all in white, all wrapped up, but just working hard off of like one meal a day, and then completely fasted for duration of their time when they're doing their fasting. And no eyelids. I mean, I was a mess. I was purging. I was lightheaded. I could barely do any of the work. A lot of the time, I just spent laying in a tent, looking up at the tent ceiling. At night, I couldn't sleep properly, just staring up at the stars. It was a crazy experience.
Mm. Was any of the people that you visited, did they consume blood as a way of getting nutrients?
Pardon?
Did any of the places you visited consume blood?
No, they actually didn't consume the blood. I think that's more of like Sahara Desert and other further south parts of Africa where they live very close to the cattle, and they actually mix the blood with the milk, I believe, and they drink that as their little longevity potion. But no, I've not managed to go there yet. I would love to.
Nice.
That would be fascinating.
Yeah. So going back to taking that into the modern world, and you hurt your wrists. How do you think, recovery would have been if you'd just been going on, standard calories in, calories out, just count them up and eat what you want and train hard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have healed as well at all, because I remember even when I was younger, in my 20s, when I was a skateboarder as well, and I've always been into extreme sports. I've always been battering my body in some kind of ridiculous, unnatural way. And even at that age, I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm still, at my age now, I'm recovering faster than ever, like compared to like my late teens and 20s. I wish I would have started this when I was like 18, 19, or at least had it from all my life. But I only managed to get this information when I was on my own and cooking for myself. But it's ridiculous now that approaching 30 and I'm healing injuries that doctors will tell me, oh yeah, don't do anything on it for a good 3 months or so. And then in a matter of weeks, I'm like, oh no, I'm going back to training. Mm. It's been incredible. So yeah, definitely noticed a massive shift in the stores in my marrow, and my biochemical activity is just working so well every time.
Yeah, and give us an indication of people who haven't checked out your Instagram, what sort of training you are doing and why. Risks might be quite important.
Yeah, well, I broke my wrist doing what I still do now. Those people are like, oh, is it safe? I'm like, yeah, I was just taking it up another level with the freestyle. But I do calisthenics mostly, which is also labeled as raw movement. So it's neuromuscular strength, and it's building the body as one motor unit to engage in static holds like hand balance, levers. And I also like to move my body a lot more explosively than that. So I do parkour free running. So all extremely harsh on the joints.
Nice, mate. And while we're on the topic of joints, the podcast is called the Stag, and that's because I'm hugely passionate about the deer industry, and you've been using a product that not many people know too much about. Hopefully people who follow this podcast have heard Mason Taylor from Superfeast talk about how amazing traditional Chinese medicine is with deer velvet. What is your experience? How did you come across it? And why do you now endorse it?
Right. Yeah, deer antler velvet. That's been a weird one because I researched it for a while and I had so many people debunking it and saying it wasn't this and that. And, you look through modern literature and it's very hard to trust what is what because you don't know what kind of vested interest is in it and such. But where I started to look deeper into it was with the Siberian tribes, not even the Chinese use of it. It's more of the Siberian tribes that live closely with the caribou. And the caribou antlers have a really thick velvet to them compared to other animals. I also heard elk is really strong as well compared to venison. But I started looking into their uses and how they use the whole animal and what they used it for, and how their hunters would use it a lot, especially when traversing a lot of the harsh environment there in the winter, looking for the large herds of caribou to hunt. And then I started to look into the biochemical activities of it, and looking more of the science of bone marrow stores, and how we use these stores for healing on when we're injured and such. So with my last injury, or the injury before when I broke both my wrists, that was one of my main focuses, was to test it out and see how it worked. And I've been using it for a year now. I had tremendous results with it. And my partner's now been on it recently as well, because I got hooked up with Bucked Up, Das Labs.
Mm.
And so I collaborated with them, and now it's something I promote and use. I use their product. And yeah, since getting my partner on it as well, she was using it for about 4 months, training every day, bashing her joints and recovering every night. Obviously, she's carnivore as well, so that helps. But the 2 months she went off it as a break, she noticed a dramatic decrease in how much her joints were recovering from all of the strength input she was putting into them for training. And so I started looking into it and trying to understand more why it does what it does, and then to understand that it's the fastest growing bone in the animal kingdom.
Mm.
And then I started looking. I'm sure you know all about this, so you could probably tell me more about how long a buck keeps its antlers for before it drops off. I can't quite remember actually. Do you know?
So I think it'll be 2 or 3 months they do that whole span, and then it hardens. Right. So yeah, the guys that are cutting the soft velvet, that in New Zealand by November most of it's gone, and then they also will often get regrowth, which again they get another sort of past the first bifurcation, yeah. And so yeah, it's incredible stuff, and then you look at some of the farm antler, and the reason why you see these horrific or magnificent, whichever way you want to look at it, trophy heads, the genetics that's gone into that, the size and the growth is just incredible, and that organ is just being pumped full of blood, and so yeah, it's full of vitality, as you say, and these precursors for our bone marrow, and what Mason said is it just gets deep into that bone marrow and creates such vitality. And it was interesting you brought up your partner there. That was how Mason sort of got onto it. He was getting all these sort of middle-aged women, feeling down in the dumps. Their biomarkers were going all up the whack, and facing medications or issues with their mental state. And he just would say, "Oh, well, I'm trying out this deer velvet," and sure enough, they came back to him and said, "My vitality is incredible, and most of my ills and chills are disappearing, and I'm out there moving, and it's just amazing."
Wow, yeah, I've heard so many reports of that now, especially a lot of I put all my performance clients on it, and even those clients as well with deep tissue damage and intestinal permeability. And yeah, a lot of them have avoided surgery because they've just healed so well. And now they're starting to rehab the actual site of where it was injured. It's been remarkable. And yeah, as you said, like a lot of the product I use actually comes from New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask, well, isn't that cruel and the kid there? Well, no, as you said, they chop it off at the right time and it regrows in a matter of months. It's the fastest growing bone. Obviously, I'm utilizing their IGF-1, so the growth hormone that allows that capacity for growing. And people are like, well, actually, does the body absorb it? And what are the side effects? And we see no side effects because it's not like what bodybuilders are using that pushes your testosterone right through the roof and stops you from actually producing your own. So yeah, it's so safe, and the results speak for themselves. I know a lot is anecdotal at the moment, but when you're seeing thousands of people using this product, and our ancestors have been using this product for a long time before they even understood the biochemical science, and they're all getting strong bones, healing injuries. It's such an incredible and valuable source that's so abundant as well.
Yeah, and going back to the process, it's in New Zealand we have these extremely high standards of care. the crush, as it's called, which holds the animal, is extremely sterile. Anybody that is doing the procedure is either a vet or endorsed by high vet standards. They're signed off to do it. The animal feels no pain, and literally they are straight out into the paddock eating grass like nothing's ever happened. Or some might have a larger head and they'll give it a shake because it's gone, but they're not worried at all. It's amazing.
No. And I believe it's harvested after the mating season as well. It's harvested at the right times to fit into the animal's natural rhythm of their bone growth and use anyway, isn't it?
For New Zealand, it'll be November, and the mating season will be in April and May. But the benefit of harvesting it is that the stag can no longer have this weapon, and so it's a lot safer for the animals. Like many a deer farmer, including my close friend, he bought a really high standard animal from actually what the guy just recently sold the highest paid stag at a sale. But anyway, he had bought this stag, and then the next year it got killed by another stag in the paddock, and exactly that. It's a safety thing as well, not just for the farmers. The farmers,
the other one valued then as a champion.
No, he was actually he ran amok on that farm. It wasn't just the stag that was killed, but yeah.
Man, we should go after the horns of that champ. He's the champ.
Yeah.
He's going to give the most bone growth right there.
Yeah, no, they're incredible animals, and I'm overtly obsessed, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I just downloaded 3 of your earlier podcasts to listen to while I train today. You got some legends on your show. I can't wait to hear them.
Yeah, no, it's part of what the podcast stands for is that by bringing on people that have done things that seem remarkable or out there, and by getting to meet them and hear from them and understand that they're just human that's dedicated to something, I think that breaks a lot of barriers for a lot of people. But at the same time, by me approaching somebody, I also to myself say that this, and it might be just coming from New Zealand where everybody's one friend away, but the world is a small place, and we can, if you want to find out something, it's just a matter of trying your hardest to contact them. And yeah, I don't know, it was pure luck that somebody like Sean Baker got him just after he'd done Joe Rogan, and in the meantime he'd been on Rob Wolf as well, and I was like, wow, this guy's awesome. Do you listen to many podcasts? Do you find some information and influence from the podcast platform?
I mean, some now and again. I mean, you got the Peak Performance podcast, Human Outliers, Brian Sanders, Sean Baker, and a lot of the doctors. I mean, Carnival Cast is another good one for my field of work because it brings on all the doctors, and they talk. The doctors like to talk more about the results with their clients and the science behind it. And obviously, they're doing a lot of summits and talks. You get to hear a lot about the response currently around this ancestral movement and mission to undemonize meat and get people thinking back to the anthropology and our ancestral history around meat. So those are usually what I listen to. I'm more interested in the experience of people rather than the regurgitated science, because I mean, I'm reading every day already. I'm going out and doing my own experience as well. So yeah, any podcast that's sharing personal experience, especially from doctors, is absolutely gold. It's amazing.
Yeah, and someone like Ted Naiman is just incredible,
Yeah, his meat and little like throwouts of science, doing a great service for humanity at the moment.
Absolutely, and you touched on there that on a weekend you like to do some study. Is that around the science, or is it studying other interests?
It's a mixture of studying biochemical activities, specific diseases and autoimmune issues, and Generally, yeah, it's just that, looking at the biochemical science and just trying to get a deeper understanding.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
because
what?
it's constantly evolving as well. The
Yeah,
more we put interest into it.
and so what motivates you to chase this down?
Well, it's mostly because it's not only my profession, but I want to live to an old age. I want to be hunting with a good, solid body that can deal with other predators and the environment for as long as I can. I just want to keep experiencing life for a long time. So it's my passion to stay on top of my health, my body's movement and capabilities, and then at the same time living that example as my old mentor would have said, Paul Check, if you don't wear it, don't share it. I want to wear it till death, and I want to share it till death.
Lovely. You're not the first person to be influenced by Paul Check. What does he mean to you?
I mean, he was my doorway into holistic understanding. He was my doorway into seeing the body as a whole, understanding what is modern skewed crap and what is actually normal for a human body to be doing. Like, he talks a lot about breathing, circadian rhythm, stress on the body, and then the nutrition. Although I don't quite agree with the nutrition aspects wholly anymore, because it's kind of based on metabolic typing and a little bit of blood typing, and I've come away from that now, trying to show that everyone can be on an all-meat diet, and showing that everyone is supposed to eat a large abundance of meat in order to be thriving, and especially to be very athletic. So I've kind of come away from those ideas of his, and I do my own thing. But yeah, he's a remarkable human and has been pushing many truths about the body systems and healing disease. And that was doing 2 of his courses was my doorway into being confident that I'm approaching everything as holistically as possible, and not just somebody that's going, oh, meat and water and you're good. Meanwhile, they're still smoking cigarettes, watching TV late at night, stressed out at work, not breathing properly or moving properly.
Mate, the TV at night thing, not only is it exposing you to bright light, massive stimulus, but it's also sort of brainwashing you, I guess. We've managed to now live without a TV for 3 years, not because I think that TV's overall bad, but just because we haven't bothered. But it's amazing what you can get done when you don't have a television, and also while you're doing something else, how much your thinking can open up. I've got my glasses on, and you've got the red light coming and going there. You've touched on it already about rhythms, and when we were in New Zealand, it was something that we just couldn't get to sleep properly. And it wasn't until the last night that, because we were sleeping in the lounge, we turned off the TV and we're like, oh my God, there was a big hum there. And obviously the electricity was going through that system. And it was probably messing up with our brainwave and where we were at with our sleep cycle, because we keep waking up. And it was just like, oh man, what else is around us? Like you say, we're being bombarded all the time. What do you think about rhythms, mate?
Rhythms. I mean, the brain clock to body clock is really important, and that's where we're seeing a boom in the biohacking scene as well. Because we are creatures of light, not how the hippies think we are. We're not gonna, supposed to be leaving this physical realm. We're here for a purpose to feel and express, but we are creatures of light. I mean, the rhythms of the planet, we're so far removed, and they do affect us greatly, as you're aware, and as you've been doing your own biohacks for a little while as well. And I've been doing it for a little while as well now, and yeah, you feel a tremendous difference. Not only physically, but mentally, in terms of how much mental focus you have in the day, how you fall asleep. I mean, now, since incorporating the red light and the blue blockers, I'm like a kid. It comes to about 8, 9 o'clock, and people, 1 minute I'm awake, they look around, I'm out cold. Like, I am shut down. I can't stay up to do anything anymore. I'm such a kid, and back in the day, but I want to stay up and watch a movie or, go out. Now I'm like, nah, leave me alone. It's bedtime. I'm going to bed. And yeah, tremendous difference in my recovery. Also my testosterone development, how I grow muscle and heal, it's just been so impactful in such a short period of time. I'm quite new to it. I'm not sure how long you've been doing it, but the biohacking side of things, I've only been at it now and studying the quantum physics for the past 3 months.
Nice. Yeah. I'm just kind of, I think I'm fringe on it. And Keegan told me about Jack Krause a couple of weeks ago, and again, the topic of light and how it influences cycle and things is probably an avenue that I'll like I say, you get to the weekend or a down moment and you go, oh, well, what can I look at? And there might be something to come up. And then being an optometrist, things like macular degeneration and what's the deal with blue light, it comes and goes in my psyche. And so, yeah, and definitely when it comes to sleep now with having a baby, you definitely noticed how much of you can't think, you can't react calmly, all that sort of stuff. It's just highlighted how important sleep is. And yeah, with the gym, going to the gym for the 5 o'clock session, so getting up around 4:20, it's probably too early, but it's just really highlighted that, hey, by bedtime you want to be well and truly in a low spot so that get into bed and go. And also if you wake up in the night with the baby, then you can get back to sleep and
go. Right, yes. It's a little different for baby at first, isn't it?
Oh, gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any of that at the moment. I mean, I'm sleeping a good solid 8 hours, just boom, straight away, getting up at just around sunrise without an alarm clock every day. And yeah, I mean, the body's key role and key priority is for hormonal balance. You have hormonal balance, everything else functions optimally. And yeah, sleep, that REM sleep, that deep sleep is key for that. I mean, if I don't sleep properly for any odd reason or when I'm traveling, yeah, you notice soreness kick in, you notice the vitality drop a little bit. Yeah, so I couldn't imagine that nightly back to back for a little while. It would probably throw me off of my training a little bit.
Absolutely. I got to get up time and it was not today, sorry. Mate, and there's going more into the sleep and the rhythms, there's, if you follow people like Rhonda Patrick and Sasha Panda, there's a massive link to when we consume food. Do you ever mess around with time restricted feeding, or has the carnivore lifestyle lent itself to feeding and fasting and feasting anyway?
Yeah, I mean, before even being carnivore, I was doing ketosis for most of the time for most of my clients and most of my training. So I was already doing intermittent fasting, and while I was in Egypt, I learned the Egyptian scale, which is eat when the sun is highest and eat when the sun is set and never fear disease again. So that's some of the studies I was doing out there. And that's what I started with. And I did that for a long time. And that naturally took me to about 18 to 24 hours fast on a daily basis. And I was only eating one meal a day, one large meal a day. Felt great. And since then going carnivore, the first 4 months of carnivore, I was fasting past 24 hours. I was doing about 30 hours in between each meal. And that felt really good as well. Eating like every 30 hours, just eating 4 or 5 steaks in one go with a bit of bacon and eggs.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was working really well. But then I put on a lot of mass and I lost a lot of body fat doing that. And as my training intensified because of the energy rise, I started eating more. And now at the moment, I'm eating more 2 meals a day, 2 large meals. Although the last 3 days, I've actually just had 1 meal as well. It's something that fluctuates. It's not something I don't time really that much anymore. I don't really think about it. I just let it intuitively happen. And I tell a lot of my clients as well, don't force 1 meal a day. Don't force any fasting pattern. Listen to your hormones, and eventually you'll fall into a nice rhythm that works for you.
In fact, now that's something in the training community that people must be jumping up and down. You've got these windows after you train, you've got to eat. What do you say to that?
I mean, it all depends on the person and their lifestyle circumstances. I mean, I have some clients now that are fasting 24 hours and having that one meal a day, and it works for them. I have some clients, especially female clients. Females generally, I find, in order to keep the aesthetics and keep shredding, they need to eat earlier. Their hormones are different to ours, and they respond metabolically a lot different. Their mitochondria really react a lot more sensitive to when they eat and how long they fast. So yeah, generally a lot of them are eating in the morning and doing most of their fasting in the evening overnight. As a lot of my athletic males, they're fasting through the night and through most of the morning and eating in the evening.
Yeah, and yeah.
So there's a few.
Yeah, going back to intuitive eating, you get a lot of well, in my practice, I get a lot of blokes and that I don't even eat breakfast, and there's so many anecdotal people out there that's, oh no, I never feel like breakfast, and then by the same token, you're saying about female physiology that they get to the evening and go, oh, I don't really feel like much, I'll just have something light and go to bed. It's whereas most blokes will go, right, I get home and I had a great day and I'm going to have a steak or 5, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, you get quite a lot of. I mean, a lot of my clients are skeptical at the beginning, especially a lot of my guys. As I said, they will be training fasted twice before they eat, and they like to eat in the evening because they like to tap into their stores in the morning. They use that as energy, and a lot of us now, especially the women as well, they'll train fasted and then eat after, some of them, and they find that they can't go back to training with food in their belly. And they find that they can't eat. They're just not hungry and can't force themselves to eat within 2 hours after training. So the body has to come back down from that sympathetic before they even get the thought of eating. And I find that really balanced because your metabolism is skyrocketing. You've got a lot of stress hormones out as well. You've got that growth hormone being produced and circulating around. And that's cleaning out the body and building up the body. And then you put all those nutrients in later on. And you find that the body's so smart, it knows exactly where to put it.
Yeah. No, it's I've spoken about it before. I'm really curious if I could live a parallel life and go back when I was a swimmer and not have that honey and banana sandwich before I went to training. And I wonder.
Carb load.
Yeah, I wonder what life would have been like. I also wonder if you spoke about surgery. I also wonder if I would have ever got cam impingement and if my hip mobility would have been better. It's something Keegan and I were speaking about it because he said he's got many friends that have had cam impingement that's just got to the stage where the only option left was surgery because things were cracked or things were broken and range of motion was just horrific. And
what did you do? What happened?
I believe that it was an overuse through developmental ages. So I was a breaststroker, before the age of 8. So through that time period up until about 15, I was also a football player, and probably through poor coaching, I wasn't very balanced around that. Same when when I'd swim freestyle, I'd only breathe on the one side, and I think I just really became right side dominant. That even showed in the way that my obliques developed. I had this right hand side that stuck out and left side that looked normal. So I think and then you listen to somebody like David Goggins and you don't know how much grounding that has, but is the Zoas muscle linked to stress and all those sorts of things, and was I a stressful child or not, I don't know, but the neck, the neck of my femur was just really, really broad and smashing against my acetabulum and created issues. And it came to a head when I did a front squat for the first time poorly with too much weight on and tore the labrum. Now, many people say you do an MRI of that area, and a lot of people will have a labral tear, but there was pain and definitely signs of things not right. And I tried for another 2 years to do things like yoga, tried clean eating, went off gluten. But yeah, I look back and just go, wow, if I'd found this low carb thing then, what might have been, and even more if I'd been able to try this carnival stuff, what might have been. But in saying that, the outcomes for me have been really good. So, you've just got to live with what happens in your life, I guess.
Yeah, got to focus on what you can do, not what you can't, man. Well, props to you, man. That sounds like it was pretty grueling to get through.
Yeah. Mate, something that I really appreciate your take on is how somebody can last being vegan, and the importance of the sunshine and the vitamin D with being vegan and maintaining that, like you said, the marrow. What do you think is key to longevity in a vegan lifestyle?
Right, for those that last a little bit longer before they start to ruin their intestinal walls and get that chronic inflammation in their body, and the obvious mental issues as well that come with a starved brain. Yeah, it's all down to how they were before, whether they were vegetarian or a meat eater that ate everything from processed food, processed meat, and mixed everything in. That standard steak and chips and beer and stuff like that. Is that all of the animal foods that they would have eaten, although eaten of all the other phytochemicals, a lot of it would have still been going into their bone marrow, and a lot of that calcium would have been deposited as well during that time. So when they make the switch to veganism, a couple of months into a year, they start actually tapping into those stores, which provides them with a little bit of the animal tissues that they need in order to stay functioning and keep the brain fueled. And obviously the liver makes a little bit of cholesterol, and so they get by. And the ones that thrive longer, it's as I like to point out, is those that are living in hot countries. You look at most of the influencers that are still kind of going, or well, a lot of them have stopped now, but they lasted maybe like 10 years or a little bit over that. It's because they moved to hot countries or were born in hot countries, and they're constantly soaking up the vitamin D, and their life isn't as stressful. And the importance with the vitamin D to know and differentiate with these vegans is that vitamin D is so important for hormonal balance, obviously your circadian rhythms, which help manage the autonomic nervous system, and also the movement of nutrients into your bones and into your skeletal tissue. So if you're getting that sunshine on a daily basis, and if you're getting some protein, I mean, you do get some, not enough to be optimum, but you get some protein and calcium from plant sources. And if you're getting just about enough, but loads of vitamin D, that vitamin D is going to help synthesize and assimilate the other nutrients into your marrow and into your skeletal tissue to at least provide some kind of stability and hardening so that you don't just fall apart. And a lot of the guys living in the cold climates, they tend to not last as long because they're not getting that movement of nutrients. They're not getting their body clocks in tune. So the body seems to chronically inflame a lot quicker, and they seem to run their marrow stores a lot quicker as well.
I think on the flip side of that, something that's really amazing, the likes of the UK, New Zealand, the lower parts of Australia that are more seasonal. When you get into those shorter days, those colder days, all of a sudden you're going back to that lady who was breastfeeding, desiring beef. Your desire for a slow cooked meal starts going through the roof.
Yeah, I mean that's what ties in with the circadian rhythms, because when you're living in a country that's just hot all year round, you don't really have those climate changes where if it gets cold and your body is requiring dense energy from fat in order to keep the metabolism up and the warmth, just how all of the Northern Hemisphere tribes, they fully understand this. They can't be as robust and active without those fats fueling them through that cold, because the amount of energy they're burning just to keep warm, regardless of how good their hide clothes are, it takes a tremendous amount of energy. So if you're vegan during winter and you're messing your circadian rhythm by tricking it into spring and summer by eating really sugary fruits that aren't from your region, it's just adding serious amounts of chronic inflammation, and your brain and your nervous system are just confused. You've completely removed yourself from nature's cycle.
And the type of mitochondria that you have in your body, if you're fueling them with fructose and glucose, then you're never going to have this nice heat producing brown fat. You're just going to be all white fat, and even though you might be blubbery, you might be freezing.
Yeah, you just got this visceral fat squeezing your organs rather than actually producing that brown energy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, and they wonder why because it takes 5 to 10 years. Generally, 5 years plus, you start to get some chronic issues from veganism. But it takes so long that a lot of the newbies that started during the propaganda time, they don't see it or get it. But as I said, you're eating all these sugary foods, and there's 4 grams of sugar in your entire bloodstream at one time, all the time. And your liver can store up to 300, depending on the size of the liver, 300 to 400 grams of glycogen as well. And if you're eating your body weight or close to your body weight in carbohydrates, which a lot of people are nowadays, it's an overflow of sugar in your bloodstream, and it's an overflow of what your liver can handle. You're storing that, and then your liver can't actually have space or room to actually clean out and help the body detoxify. And using your kidneys, it disrupts the osmosis of your kidneys and the water system, altering your blood pressure. And when you do that, your mitochondria, that are the energy houses, to produce energy, there's always waste. In nature and in modern technology, you look at electricity, fossil fuels, always a waste product at the end of creating energy. And when that waste can't move, imagine if you shat all day and then you had to sit in it, and then you had to sit in that over months, and you kept shitting and you had to sit in that over years. You wouldn't be very happy, and you wouldn't be very healthy. And that's what's happened to people's mitochondria. The mitochondria is sitting in their own waste for a long period of time without any evacuation. And then what's left? The immune system has to go in there and attack the shit out of it to try and clean it up. And bam, you have an autoimmune issue.
Yeah, so simple. You spoke about that 4 grams of sugar in the blood at any one time. The advent of continuous glucose meters has just been absolutely amazing. And, one day we all might be able to just have one. And then I think what we eat will drastically change. And one of my online friends in Adelaide, she has been sort of keto and had a good period of carnivore, and now she's more of a meat-based keto diet. But she did a vegan experiment which only lasted 4 days because she just got sick of it. But it's amazing how even though the meal may raise her blood sugar, it then drops, and then should just randomly, without even eating, get these random spikes, and the general glucose level was so much higher and just kept going up and up. All of a sudden, she said, "I haven't even eaten here. I don't know where this has come from." And then she said, "I don't have energy. I'm just buzzing." Or then obviously it'd crash, and oh man, I just feel horrible. And it's where hangry and manic comes from when you're on literally a roller coaster.
Yeah, the roller coaster, the blood roller coaster of death.
Yeah.
Call it.
Mate, is Instagram your only handle? Where else do people tap into your take on life, which I love?
I try and keep it simple. I mean, Instagram's the greatest tool in order to access a large amount of people and to have a family. I mean, I'm talking with a lot of the people on a daily basis. They message me through, especially the stories bit. It's so brilliant because you can just put a little snippet there, and then you can talk about it, and you can put your own character to it, as opposed to just kind of like a picture and to the point of what you want to say. So yeah, Instagram is definitely my favorite handle for social activity and promoting the work I do. But I also use my website as well, which is originsofvitality.com, where I've got a blog and I'm writing more about ancestral health and also my own experiences using ancestral protocols. So I actually just did my last one last Thursday, was about my wrist breakage, and I put up the video of when I broke both my wrists as well. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's a good laugh of a video because you just kind of see me bounce up like, what the hell happened?
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were demonstrating the movement cold. Is that why it went?
Oh, that was for my bicep tear.
Oh right.
Yeah, that was nearly 3 months ago now. That was still a coach mistake. Battered my own body with my own training, then taught a class, and somebody needed to see the movement. And rather than warming up or just politely declining and just trying to explain the movement better, which I have the skills for because I taught classes for a few months with both arms in a cast, these complex movements, and it worked. So I could have done that, but I didn't think properly. Ego got the best of me. I was like, oh yeah, I got this move. It's simple. I'll show them. And then I put all my weight on a straight loaded arm and pop went the weasel.
Oh dear. You talk about being on Instagram and blogging. How do you balance out that life and online world with the rest of your life? And obviously, getting out into nature is one of the greatest things we can do. But life's all about balance, and we live in a time where the internet and phones and things are part of it. How do you sort of justify it to yourself, I guess?
I mean, it's not really balanced for me at the moment at all. I mean, I'm on it quite heavily now as well because it's been picking up momentum and the interest in this carnivore as well. And I mean, we're all of the doctors and the nutritionists or holistic coaches that are on this, we're so close with each other. We're just daily trying to push the information. So I've been using it a lot more than I normally would, but I generally try to do all messages and social media or promotion of anything morning and then a little bit in the evening, and in the day it's just my time to focus on myself, and that's generally when I'm locked away in the gym or somewhere outdoors training and enjoying the sunlight.
Beautiful, mate. Yeah, I've noticed I've got a sort of a limiter on my phone, and especially whilst we're away, trying to capture photos or contact people. The reminder that the time was up got put off for 15 minutes quite a few times. But I think that's just a small tool, and things like flux for in your nighttime and night mode are just little tools that can make you feel a little bit better about being in front of a screen when you have to.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm getting about with my reports on my phone, I'm getting about I think it's 8 hours of like proper screen time a week, which I don't think is too bad.
No, it's pretty good.
That's just an hour or so each time, and like religiously on it, going through loads of stuff. And most of that is my website and Instagram, just messaging back and clients and stuff like that.
Wonderful, mate. What would you like to leave people with, Dom? There's obviously plenty more platforms out there to check out your stuff, but what's something that you'd like to leave people with, the way you're thinking, summarizing up what your beliefs are at, or what you've learned right now, anything like
that? What I would say is don't dwell on the past, but always check back on the past. If you're unsure of what the hell is being taught to you in this modern day and what the hell is going on, just have a little revisit to the past. Instead of looking at articles on your tablet and phone, as convenient as it is, pick up a book that was written way before you were born, where they didn't have vested interest and crap to go from. It was just explorers, doctors looking for the biochemical truths, not trying to work for a company or being paid by the sugar industry or any of that stuff. Look back, read a proper book, pick up an actual hard copy of a book and read it and get that information. And then you can use that for today's information and better compare and understand where your information is coming from.
Probably. And on that note, I'm off to read my 10 pages for the day. I hope you have an awesome day there, mate, in Brighton. It looks like it's going to be a cracker. And
yeah,
thanks so much for coming on. It's awesome to connect with another person that's getting in touch with not only their personal health, but hoping to disseminate that to others and improve the lives of others. So this is awesome, man.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. And I would like to connect with you because the greatest medicine I'm missing at the moment is hunting, being away from everything, all modern light, and that medicine of nature, the sounds, the stress of trying to find your food, regardless of whether you're successful or not, just that stress of tracking and being in the nature. I need that in my life. So I'm definitely going to try and come and find you in NZ at some point. And mate, really appreciate this opportunity.
Lovely, mate. And we'll make it happen. Cheers, brother.
Nice one, bro.